NFL. Let's bring in Greg Coleman. He is a former Vikings punter. He's now the Vikings sideline reporter. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, guys. How are you?
Great. All right, Greg, you answer that question. Do you take it one game at a time, or do you actually say to yourself, if we can get out of November 2-2, we'll be just fine?
Well, those are conversations that you have in private, but the politically correct answer is, yes, we're going to take them one at a time, but everybody knows that you go through your calendar, very similar to what he talked about, and yeah, if we can, if at the end of November, if at the end of October we can be 2-2, end of September, but again, the one thing I'll go back to something that Herm Edwards says. Regardless of what the schedule says, you got to play the game. And nobody thought that a lot of teams that are 0-3 would be 0-3. So that's why you play the game.
You played to win the game, is what Herm said.
Absolutely. Bud Grant would always say that. I can get anybody to play football, but you're paid to win football games. Correct.
Hey, Greg, the Vikings seem to be saying all the right things about the Broncos' defense, about Peyton Manning in particular. The Vikings have one hell of a pass rush, though. Do they really believe that about Peyton Manning, that he's still one of the best, or do they believe they can get to the old man?
Well, I think it's a little of both. You look at the body of work that Peyton has had over the last several years, even in his, I would say, maturing years. I will never call a football player old. But as he continues to mature, he continues to play at a high level. Yes, you got to put heat on him, consistent heat. And right now, this young defensive line is doing a great job, led by Everson Griffin and Brian Robertson, and Sharif Floyd is coming into his own, and Charlie Johnson on the other side. It starts with the defensive line. It starts with those tackles, and those guys with penetration and the guys on the outside. If they can continue to move the dime on the other side of the line of scrimmage, then the chances are very, very good.
Okay, here in Denver, there's discussion about Peyton Manning's offense, Gary Kubiak's offense, and the defense being the strength of the team right now, and how the team should be structured as it goes forward, as the argument we were just having. What's going on in Minnesota? It seems like the defense is very underrated, and they want to win the game basically on the ground or with their defense.
Well, it's a little of both. It's going to take all. Listen, the DNA makeup of Mike Zimmer is that of defense. When he was in Dallas, that's what he was known for. When he went to Cincinnati, he turned their defense around. And the work that he has done with this young defensive football team from Minnesota is, I'm not going to say far from being miraculous, but I think it's still a good focus. People have always said, and I don't think it's changed, you win championships with defense and a good quarterback. And still today, you got to have a solid defense, especially with the weapons that Peyton has over there. And let's face it, you give him time, I don't care how old he is, he can still get the rock down the field.
You got a quarterback. Speaking of quarterbacks, you have a quarterback that I referred to in the past as Simon and Garfunkel. He was kind of bridge over troubled waters. But you can have that. You can use that sometime if you want. But
I will, Woody.
They went out and they got Mike Wallace. I didn't like Mike Wallace once he left Pittsburgh and went down south. I thought he got his contract and kind of and he's run out of there. But Mike Wallace had an opportunity in the end zone last week, if I remember correctly. But Bridgewater's thrown, I think, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. You're not getting much at all out of your passing game in Minnesota. What has got to change about that? I mean, you can't depend on Adrian Peterson to get 250 yards a game.
Woody, it's only the 3rd game of the season now. I mean, my gosh, you got to spread the ball around. Don't get me started on this. We're not a one-dimensional football team. You got Kyle Rudolph. You got Charlie Johnson on the outside. You've got Jarius Wright on the inside. So let's face it. Adrian Peterson will demand the respect of any football team, any defense, regardless to who it is. And let's face it, he's only played 3 games. He didn't play at all during the course of preseason. So he's just really getting his body in football shape, because you can run and have good wind and all of those things. But as you all know, when you start taking pounding, that's when your body has to make adjustments. And this is only the 3rd week that Adrian has taken pounding. So, let's give it a little time. And North Turner, the offensive coordinator, knows how to get the rock around. He spreads the rock around. And Teddy's a very young, intelligent quarterback, and he's got us in and out of some very, very crucial situations by knowing and has command of that offense.
All right, you talk about pounding, and you say Teddy Bridgewater. What about these defensive ends for the Broncos? Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, all the pressure they're getting on the quarterback. You guys are missing Lodi. He's out for the season. How are they going to protect Teddy Bridgewater against this tremendous Broncos pass rush?
Well, I think you're going to have to be smart with the football. Number one, you got to take care of the football. We've got young T.J. Clemens, who came in and replaced Phil Lodeholt at tackle. Our starting center, John Sullivan, is out. It's always been next man up. And I don't think the coaching staff have panicked about those injuries, although you don't take two all-pros out of your offensive line, guys that are playing at a Pro Bowl level and not miss them. So that means that everybody else has got to be a little bit smarter. You may chip a little bit more with the tight end. But again, you got to take what the defense gives you, and you got to be smart with the football. And so far, especially the last couple of games, I think Teddy Bridgewater has been very smart with the football. The other thing is Teddy has the ability to use his legs. And I think last year, sometimes against Detroit last year, they sacked us 8 times because Teddy did not want to run the football. But I think now coaches are telling him, use that God-given ability, use that God-given talent that he's given you. If the pocket breaks down, if you see an opening, take it and get down, get out of the way, because Denver will bring they will bring the house at you.
Our guest is Greg Coleman, and all of our live guests are brought to you by Papa John's. Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
You guys are all young. I'm 69 years old. I can't, as I said earlier, I can't buy green bananas. I live, okay, it's the third game. I'm living in the moment of the third game. I go back to that. The Green Bay Packers, forgive me, are going to run away with that division. The only team I see with any chance of getting into the playoffs is Minnesota Vikings. How are the Minnesota, because you got 2 dog butt teams in the Bears and the Lions in that division. What do the Vikings got to do to at least stay in the realm with the Packers and have a chance at the playoffs this year?
Well, Woody, you talked about it. I mean, it starts as long as you continue to win. And I don't want to sound cliche-ish, but Denver is going to be another great test. I mean, we had a great test with Phillip Rivers last week, and you put that heat on him. The defensive line was in his face all day long. If we can do the same thing, get Peyton off of his spot, force him to get the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker than he normally would, disrupt some of those long rhythm passes, I think that's where it starts. On the defensive side, we got to be able to do a better job on the blitz pickup. You got to pick up, because you know that they are going to blitz Teddy Bridgewater, but he's got an arm, he's got the intelligence, and he's got the speed with his legs. And coupled with special teams, I mean, let's face it. Bud Grant used to always say that special teams is going to win 3 games for you. This might be one of those games. So that's how you do it. That's how you stay close. But most important thing, you got to handle your business. You can't worry about what Green Bay does. And Aaron Rodgers, he's the best quarterback in football right now. But you take care of your business until we play the Green Bay Packers, and then anything can happen, guys. Anything can happen.
Greg, I want to end it with something you just said. The way they pressured Phillip Rivers last week, 4 sacks. I think they hit him 8 more times after that. They blitzed him, according to the numbers I saw, 17 out of 38 dropbacks for Phil. Almost 50% of the time they blitzed Phillip Rivers. Is that what the Broncos and Peyton Manning should expect?
Well, obviously, the game plan will dictate that. I mean, I know those, they're looking at the film and all of those things. You try and take away the strength of a quarterback. And Peyton's strength is being able to go through his progression and his check downs. But if you can get him off his spot, make him move a little bit quicker, get that ball out of his hands, you have a fighting chance. And it starts up front again with the defensive line versus the offensive line. Whoever controls the line of scrimmage, 9 times out of 10 is a team that's going to win a football game.
He's Gregory Coleman. He does the sideline reporting during Vikings games, former Vikings punter. Gregory, are you on Twitter?
Yes, I am, at Greg Coleman 8.
Easy enough.
And I want to say, you were one of the great punters I ever watched. I don't know where you got your technique, but I loved your technique. It was unusual. Is that a fair statement to call it unique?
Well, I think I was a bit unusual anyway, Woody. I mean, there weren't that many African-American punters in the league, but, you know, I was stupid enough to believe that I could do whatever I wanted to do and had coaches who believed in me. And, you know, I always tried to do something a little bit different. I can remember one of those Monday night games where Howard Cosell would label you, you know, with a nickname or tag. And, you know, he said I was a corner Coleman kicker or whatever he wanted to call me. But, you know, it didn't matter as long as I, you know, could on fourth downs, when they called my number, I could produce.
Greg, really appreciate your time. We'll see you here on Sunday, okay?
All right, guys, be well.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Greg Coleman.